Tush should have known me well enough not to ask me to speak because he knows I hate getting on stage.
He hates it.
But he also knows me well enough that I do anything for him. So if he asks me, I'll do it. So I'm very uncomfortable, but we'll start. So Tush asked me to come up with a subject. I said, let's think about identity crisis in cyberspace, or just identity crisis. And then I thought it'd be good to start off with a story about cost, but like a psychological cost. We keep talking about monetary cost and downtime, but no one really talks about what happens to the IT teams that actually go through this process, the process of a breach. So I thought I'd share a quick story, something that we handled incident response for. One thing we do is digital forensics incident response. And so we see a lot of breaches on a weekly basis. And so quick story. Imagine you're the IT director, you're 25 years old, you work for an organization for about 25 years. You grew up in the ranks, you're now the CIO. You know the family, you know the grandkids of everybody at the organization. You're about 250 close, intimate people that are intimate relationships of yours. So you care about the business. The business happens to be a SaaS company that serves a particular vertical industry, of which they have about 10% market share of. So significant SaaS business, which gets impacted if they get breached. They were breached, we got the call, we started the incident response, and then we started watching this team crumble over our eyes in the next 2 weeks. The threat actors were a group called Acura. They were relatively new to the scene when this happened. And Acura did a mistake when they did their encryption. They actually double encrypted files. And they got on hold of the identity and escalated their privileges, and they deleted all backups. They deleted the ability to recover completely off the organization, which is what they do, by the way. Because threat actors typically are in your environment at least 6 to 8 months before the actual breach occurs, waiting for the opportunistic moment and waiting for the proper escalation of privileges to be able to cripple the organization, simultaneously also hope to extract particular data that in the event that you are able to recover, that there's still the data breach that you have to pay ransom for, which is usually more significant than the actual breach itself, oftentimes. So we did everything we could. We realized out of the 200 virtual servers, not one of them were able to be resolved or restored. So we negotiated a $2 million ransom payment. We paid the ransom. The decryption files keys came in, and every single VM, with the exception of one, was corrupted. And every single VM, including their applications, had to be rebuilt over the next 3 weeks, which we did. And even after paying the $2 million, the owner, and here's the decision tree of the owner. The owner owned this business for many, many years, was about 82 years old, already retired, chairman of the organization, had to determine, do I take the $5 million out of the coffers of our bank account and just retire and divvy it up to the employees partially, or pay these threat actors and let the business thrive? And they did, and it was all for naught. And they ended up rebuilding the environment, and the company lives today. However, after about the 3rd week, the second lieutenant in command quit, couldn't handle it anymore. And after about 2 years, the CIO, which we deal with on a regular basis, is not the same human being anymore. Not only is he paranoid completely across the board with everything, but there was an emotional toll that took hold of the individual that I don't think PTSD he'll never get rid of. And so today, we talked a lot about zero trust. Everybody mentioned all the things to do. And a lot of it seems daunting. So I thought I'd make it simple. Most breaches occur with identity. We saw emails are like the vast majority, and that's how everyone's getting in. And MFA is necessarily not enough. But everybody also thinks it's daunting to approach zero trust, because you'll never get to zero trust. You'll get to hopefully near zero trust. But if we pick a couple of the pillars that are simple, within about 3 to 4 weeks, maybe maximum 6 weeks, you can accomplish everything we're talking about in terms of minimum baseline protections. So with a show of hands, how many people are on Office 365 as an organization? Almost collectively, everyone. So Office 365, for about an $8 license, bundles a couple of interesting components. There's a license called F3 for frontline workers, but includes some licensing that allows you to manage the identity, conditional access, MFA, and as well as the device. And so we talked a lot about passwords and password changes, but what we recommend highly is never changing a password, actually doing everything passwordless. So if we have certain tools that we can bundle through Microsoft, and then decide how we're going to handle minimum table stakes of identity, we start locking down MFA, start locking down users to their seats. Are they working within a zip code or geofencing within an area code or within the state or country? But really, if they're staying positioned in one geography, we like to lock them down, and anything outside, we do not allow for access. We allow the Windows Hello to be your authenticator. So as you're sitting down and you're logging in, we don't need to reset passwords anymore. By the way, Help Desk will be very happy too, because I would imagine the vast majority of Help Desk tickets are password resets. Those go away in about a 12-hour project, like literally 12-hour project. And although, again, we're talking about all these machinations of different variations of things that can breach our organizations, it simply comes down to the identity. And identity is the simplest thing, in our opinion, to lock down effectively, so much so that I would say you can thwart about 90% of the threats away by a 6-week project that I'm just talking about.
Yeah, I think it's important for everyone to know that sometimes security and convenience they're not quite aligned.
No, but it doesn't have to be that inconvenient too, right? So the complications of network zero trust, there's a lot of considerations, a lot of layers you have to think about. And someone mentioned in the previous discussion segregation of the network. At the very least, the most critical assets should be segregated and locked down independently of the entire organization. And I know that's difficult to do, but it is possible. Planning is required. But again, going back to the identity side, we don't think it's very complicated to achieve the things everyone should be doing, much like setting up a MFA account on your Google Gmail account.
Yes, I think cybersecurity is like Swiss cheese, right? You have to put multiple layers and close all those holes, right? Well, and threat actors have to get it right only once,
only once.
We have to get it right 100% of the time.
Right, and you got to think about infrastructure and network environment as having about 4,000 to 10,000 doors that are unlocked at some point in time throughout the day. And you try to lock as many doors as possible and put enough doorbells and ring cams and places to see who's coming at all times, but it's hard to lock everything down. But it is easy to lock down identity. I mean, that's where we want the motivation for IT directors to start, and then start going down the track of approaching near zero trust.
And of course, they've got people like us, right? Well, they can count on to give them some strategies, right?
CISA, and they can get it handled as well. So that's
plug on that.
That's a good plug. That's a good plug. So, and wanted to leave that to any open questions. If anybody had any questions about specific approaches to identity today, if not, we can all enjoy our lunch. I thought I'd make a quick speech. All right.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you very much.